Most people I meet think retirement happens at age 67, maybe even 70. They figure they'll work until Medicare kicks in or Social Security feels safe. But here's what I want to tell you. Most people could retire 5 to 10 years earlier if they simply understood how money really works in retirement. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. People in their late 50s, even early 50s, walking away from work not because they hit the lottery, but because they had a plan that worked for them. And mainly it stems from how they're going to be able to generate income from their portfolio and their assets. So today, I'm going to walk you through how people actually do it. No gimmicks, no get rich quick, just the real proven principles that can move your retirement date up by a decade. When I ask people why they think they can't retire until 70, I usually hear one of three things. One, I don't have enough saved. Two, health insurance will be too expensive. Or three, which is the usual one, I'm afraid I'll run out of money. And honestly, those are fair concerns. But the real reason behind them is something deeper. We've been trained to think about retirement the wrong way. See, most of us were raised with the idea that retirement is about a number, a big savings goal. Some say it's $1 million, or you can't retire until you replace 80% of your income. But here's the truth. Retirement isn't about a number. It's about income, lifestyle, and flexibility. I'll tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I met a couple. Let's call them Mark and Lisa. Mark was 59, Lisa was 57. They both loved the idea of retiring early, but they assumed it was impossible. They had about $1.2 million saved and thought, it's not enough. But when we looked at their spending, we realized their lifestyle only required about $70,000 a year. And between Social Security, some smart use of the retirement IRAs, and some small pensions, they could make it work without touching principal for almost a decade. Mark called me 2 years later from the North Shore and said, Vince, I don't know why I thought I had to wait until 67. The point is, retiring early isn't about having more money. It's about having the right plan. So if you want to retire early, you have to start thinking differently. Most people think of retirement as a finish line. You work, save, invest, and then one day you just stop. But people who retire early, they think in terms of phases. The first phase might be more like semi-retirement, working part-time, consulting, or turning a passion into income. Then comes the go-go years, or what I call the retirement honeymoon years. Those active, travel-filled years in your 50s and 60s. Then the slow-go years, where you spend more time at home, maybe helping grandkids. And finally, the no-go years, where healthcare becomes the focus. Each phase has different spending, taxes, and income needs. You don't need millions of dollars sitting idle. You need a strategy that evolves with you. Here's another story. I had a client, we'll call her Karen, who loved her job as a nurse but was getting burned out. She wanted to retire at age 58 but was terrified of healthcare costs before Medicare. We built out a plan where she used part of her portfolio to fund an HSA and bridge insurance until 65. She also started a small consulting gig 2 days a week. Guess what? She retired at age 58, and she told me, I feel like I have my life back. Early retirement isn't about quitting life. It's about reclaiming it. So let's make sure we get a clear vision on your lifestyle and spending. This is where the magic starts, clarity. You can't retire early if you don't know what life actually costs. Most people guess at their spending. When we work with clients, we break it down by lifestyle categories. First, we have the essentials like housing, food, insurance, utilities. Then we have a joy type of lifestyle, so travel, dining, hobbies, and gifts. Then we have the growth part, education, volunteering, maybe even part-time work that keeps you engaged. When you see your expenses, you realize you don't need as much as you think to live a full, rich life. I had a client who thought she needed $120,000 a year to retire. After tracking real expenses, it turned out she needed about $78,000. That difference, it shaved 6 years off her retirement timeline. So if you're serious about retiring early, start by tracking your spending for 90 days. You'll be amazed how much clarity that brings. In step 2, we need to build reliable income streams. Once you know what you need, the next step is creating the income that doesn't depend on a paycheck. Now, there are a few main sources. One is your Social Security, but if you're retiring early, that's a little bit harder to draw from that right away. Number two is your retirement accounts, which is usually the bigger way of getting that income if you want to retire early, such as your IRAs, your 401ks, and Roth IRAs. Then you have your after-tax accounts, such as your taxable investments, brokerage accounts, real estate. And then you have part-time passive income, rental, consulting, or small businesses, or online ventures. What early retirees understand is this: you don't have to replace your entire income, just your lifestyle. For example, if you made $150,000 at work but live on $70,000, your retirement income need is only $70,000, not $150,000. Now, if you can create $50,000 of that from investments and $20,000 from part-time work to get you the $70,000 income that you need, you're done. I remember a client named Dave who always said, "I'll never retire, Vince." But when we added up his income sources, 2 rental properties, his Social Security, and his 401k, he realized he was already financially independent. So he retired at 60 and started restoring classic cars. The key is to build income layers, some guaranteed, some flexible, and some growing with inflation. Now, step 3, we want to reduce taxes and the hidden drains. This one's big, and it's where so many people lose years of potential retirement. Every year you save in taxes is another dollar you don't have to earn or withdraw. When I look at plans that make early retirement possible, it's almost always come down to tax efficiency. You've got to think about things like converting some traditional IRA money to a Roth in low income years, using the 0% capital gains brackets early on, planning withdrawals strategically between taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts. And here's the kicker: the years between retirement and age 73, when required minimum distribution starts, are the golden window for tax planning. I've seen clients save hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime taxes just by filling up the lower tax brackets in those years. Now, let me give you an example. A couple retired at age 60 with $1.5 million in IRAs. We started partial Roth conversions each year until age 72, keeping them in the 12% tax bracket. When RMDs kicked in, their tax bill was half of what it would have been. That's allowed them to travel without worrying about taxes eating away at their future. So yes, tax planning does equal time freedom. Step 4 is sequence of your withdrawals wisely. A lot of people think retirement is just about drawing 4% a year, but in reality, where you draw from and when can make or break your plan. Think of your assets like buckets. Your taxable account is short-term bucket. Your IRAs or 401ks is your midterm bucket, and your Roth is your long-term bucket, because that gets to grow tax-free, and when you take distributions from that, it will be tax-free. So early in retirement, you'll often want to draw from your taxable account first, then your IRA, and then Roth last, because again, it grows tax-free. But every plan is different. The point is to have a withdrawal strategy that minimizes taxes and maximizes longevity. One client of mine, Steve, was 56 and wanted to retire, but wasn't sure he could. Once we mapped out a withdrawal plan, bridging income until Social Security, making sure we had enough for healthcare, then switching to Roth withdrawals, he realized he could leave work the next year. So the order matters in retirement income, and it's one of the most overlooked secrets to retiring early. Step 5 is to manage risk and longevity. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, Vince, but what if the market crashes right after I retire? And that's a fair question. It's called sequence of return risk. If you withdraw too much from your portfolio early in retirement during a down market, you can deplete your assets a lot faster than you think. That's why I help clients build what I call a retirement buffer strategy. It's basically keeping 1 to 3 years of income in a safer bucket, cash or short-term bonds, so you don't have to sell investments during a downturn. We also try to strategically create income by generating dividends and interest, so you're only drawing down dividends and interest from your portfolio rather than drawing your principal. So it's not about avoiding risk, it's about managing it. And when it comes to longevity, remember, early retirement doesn't mean early spending. You'll likely have 30 plus years of retirement to plan for. That's where diversification, smart withdrawals, and inflation protected income all come in. You can retire early and sleep well at night if your plan has flexibility built in. Step 6, keep a purpose in retirement. Now, here's something most financial advisors don't talk about enough, which is purpose. You can have all the money in the world, but if you wake up without a reason to get out of bed, retirement can feel empty. I've seen clients who retired at age 55 and were happier than ever because they stayed active, volunteering, mentoring, traveling, learning new skills. And I've seen others who struggled, not because they ran out of money, but because they lost their sense of identity. So when you think about early retirement, don't just picture not working. Picture what you'll do next. Maybe it's part-time consulting, starting a business, or spending time with family. Maybe it's taking that RV trip you've dreamed of. Whatever it is, build it into your plan because money supports purpose. It doesn't replace it. So, can you retire earlier than you thought? For most people, absolutely yes. You don't have to wait until 70. You just need clarity, strategy, and the right mindset. Retirement isn't an age, it's a plan. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe. And if you're wondering what your retirement timeline could look like, I'll put a link below in the description to schedule a conversation with me or my team. I'm Vince Oldre, and I hope this helps you. We'll see you next time.